Hello, 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 hello. How is everybody today? We are going live. We have our special guest with us today, and I am so excited for her to be here. I'm excited that she was able to join us and really share with us what it is that she does. So I want everyone to welcome our special guest, Tomesha D. Walker. Hi, Tomesha. How are you today?
Hey, Michelle, I am blessed and highly favored. How are you doing today, my dear?
I am wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself to our guests?
Sure. So I am Tomesha D. Walker, often known as the baby birthing godmother to millions, and I'm excited because I have the opportunity to function in this world to help people experience their best birth, birthing in peace and power. And I have had the immense opportunity to not only support mothers in birth, but also to support individuals as they birth books and businesses to expand and to grow.
Oh, okay. So you cover the whole gamut. You believe in birthing as a lifestyle, huh?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
I
So as
believe.
I was getting to know you a little bit better by the information that you had shared, um, when you are dealing with mothers that are nervous about the birthing experience,
Hmm.
what normally is some of the things that you share with them?
Oh, sure. So oftentimes it's a lot of the same questions. So moms really want to know about the process, right? So we'll go through childbirth education. We also talk about preparing for the postpartum as well as lactation. So it's a nice opportunity to help them understand why their bodies are changing, what's happening, and what's going to be coming in the days or months ahead.
Okay.
So, mhm, go ahead.
So in what it is that you do, because recently, it was what, 6 months ago, my daughter had a baby. His name is August.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think he's the last of the Mohicans for a while. She said she's done. She's got four, and she's not trying to have any more. She's done.
Okay.
But I do know, and I really wanted to kind of get into this conversation because I do know that there are oftentimes that people don't understand that mothers or expectant mothers do go through a period of depression before and after the actual birth.
Mhm.
So can
Yeah,
you talk
not a
about that a
lot.
little bit?
Sure, not a lot of people talk about beforehand, right? But yes, a lot of mothers do deal with some strong emotional responses to the fact that their body's changing, that they can't quite do everything that they did before, and that they actually need to have support and assistance to do multiple things that they didn't have to before, and that they look different, right? And can't quite fit all of the things that they were fitting before.
Right.
You know, things are changing. And so, whether it is before or after, there's so many hormonal changes that are happening, and the view is just different, right? When you look in the mirror and how your life is shifting with this new little person or multiple that's growing on the inside. So your relationships with people are changing. The way that you look at yourself is changing. And so you just have to make sure that you stay connected with people. You have to make sure that you have a circle and a community, a tribe around you that's helping to support you and helping you. It's great when you have people who've already been through that journey, right? So I also personally had 4 children. So it's like this is something that I have been a part of and been doing for years.
I think that that is important that people understand that the changes that we go through and the issues that we deal with sometimes creates an avenue that we began to doubt our ability to step into this role, or to reintroduce ourselves into this role. And so it's very important, that we have that connection with people that kind of normalize what it is that we're dealing with. Because I don't care, I've got 3 adult children, and I don't care what anybody has to say. All 3 of them births were different, and all 3 of them peoples is different. um my daughter, of course, is my oldest, and then I've got 2 sons after her, and each one of them requires something different of me as a mother. Each one of them, even as babies, responded differently. Like my middle child, when I tell you he is so even keel, he just, you know how sometimes you'll have those high strung kids. He wasn't that for me. He's still even keel now. He doesn't like conflict or drama. It's not that he can't handle it, he just prefers not to deal with it. Whereas my younger son, just whatever makes the day more interesting, just whatever. And he's been like that his whole life. And so, even as I'm watching her with my grandson and him interacting with his other 3 siblings, it has been very interesting in how he lights up when they come into the room. He thinks that is the he knows that something's getting ready to happen. He don't necessarily know what's getting ready to happen, but he knows something's getting ready to happen. And so I think that that's important as well. So how did you switch, or I won't say switch, how did you continue that mindset into helping people birth their careers and or birth their purpose in life?
So a lot of people had the question of me when they began their journeys in business, whether it was with a doula organization or some branch of the doula. Like I started as a birth doula, and then I learned more things concerning becoming a postpartum doula, a lactation consultant, a Lamaze childbirth educator. So I began to branch out. And then I began to meet more individuals who would say, well, how did you do that? As far as business, period. Whether it was marketing, whether it was expansion, whether it was outreach, whatever it was. People were saying, well, how did you get that done? Right? And then you have a lot of people who also are interested in mentorship when it comes to becoming something in the birth field. So that's how I branched out more so in business, right? So being able to support people to be a healthy creative in their mastermind and helping them to think through, how can I do this? Would this really work for me? I did a lot of personal training when it came to business. And so it allowed me to then be able to support and lead other people, to be able to step out and be excited about who they are and what they're doing. So that's how it came about for business. And then for books, a mentor that I had encouraged us to write. And so I was so scared. I was so scared when I put together my first book. And I was taking my dear sweet time, right? Because I was so nervous. And she goes, yeah, no, we're going to pick a date and we're going to get this done. And I'm like, okay. She said, so let's go ahead and pick this date and we're going to go ahead and publish. And she said, I just expect you to have everything done and previewed and ready to go. And I expect you to send me the link so I can look at it on this date. And I said, okay, sure. But I got it done. So once I finished that one, I just decided after that for a few years, I just kind of did them literally. And I don't think I've ever said this on anyone's show, so you might be getting an exclusive. I started publishing every year around the same date. So I would just continue to put more books out. And so when I did that, it allowed me to be comfortable with that process. And so then I put together I went in the community and I taught a workshop to help other authors to put together their concepts, their ideas, and figure it out. And then I did a digital course for that as well to show people how to walk through that process and to not make it long and drawn out and scary, but to be able to get it done. Right. And so even now I have wonderful individuals that come to me and they're like, I have this idea, right? I would love to publish a book. And I'm going, well, let's do it. And they're like, really? I was just thinking, nope, let's set a date. Let's get it done. Because we can do this, and for each and every one of us, the information that we're holding inside and the experiences that we've gone through, they're not just for us. They're to help someone else. And I knew when I published my first book, that was really one of the main reasons why I even wanted to put it out. Because it dealt with, and most people know me for that book, is Purpose and Pain. Like, it dealt with the struggles that I had gone through as a mom dealing with a child that was a high risk delivery and just NICU stay, right? And NICU is neonatal intensive care unit, for anybody that's unsure about that acronym. And so I put together the book to house support and encouragement. And so we brought together 6 different families and had them share their stories and had them talk about what got them through it, what was going on, what happened, and what scriptures helped to encourage them to move from a place of fear, and a place of uncertainty to being grateful and celebrating and just moving forward and riding the wave of the journey that was in front of them, right? So finding that purpose in the pain that we were going through. And so every story is unique and different. So I think it allows people a place to connect and to be felt, by someone else and something else that someone went through. And then it gives sections in there so that you can also write about your journey and get it out. Because I found that to be so cathartic for so many people, is to not just, connect with someone, but then be able to get out how they're feeling about whatever the situation is that they're going through. So that's kind of what really propelled my journey and pushed me into those 3 areas. Because I find that we all live through so much, and we have so much that we can birth from within us. And so it just takes people like us to come around them and to be their community and to be their tribe and their family, to say, I got you. I will hold your hand through this. Let's talk it out. Let's walk it out. Let's cry it out. Let's live it out. But let's be about that action to accomplish what we need to accomplish in life. And to round that out, I'll say, I just finished doing a foreword for a book called Nothing Happens in the Grave. And what I said just made me think about that, because it's like so many people take their talents, their hopes, their dreams, their visions to the grave versus birthing that stuff out, because we all need each other. We all need each other and what we've been through, what we've learned, and what we have to share, or even what we're figuring out. Because know that somebody else is figuring it out just like you figured it out. I don't know about you, but it helped me take a few more steps forward to know I'm not alone and it's going to be all right because we figuring this out together. So she just, Amanessa Aruma, she just published that on the 11th. And that was just an honor, to be a part of that. But just to remind people to birth, not to let it die, not to go to the grave holding things, but to release it and let it be birthed.
One of the greatest things that I have learned is that we sometimes don't give ourselves permission to step into that space. We want to use the excuse, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. And, there are, from actually birthing a child to birthing a business or a book or your purpose, as you begin to look at those things, it's the same steps. You go through that same pregnancy period. You go through that same process that you look at. And see, when you start talking about writing books, you're in my lane now. Because like you, over the last 4 years, around the same time every year, I have put a book out. And it's just that sweet spot for me. Okay, let me do this. And then people have become accustomed to know that something's coming out in the fall of every year from Michelle. And it gives people, and as a writer's coach myself, I talk to people about that, and we through my boot camp that I do, and like you do your workshops, I call mine the boot camp. And in those, we are talking them through the process. And I mean, it must have been apropos that we were going to be talking about this because I am literally in the middle of creating an ebook for writers to begin to talk to them about designing and creating, building their ideal reader avatar.
Yes.
And so in that, I think a lot of times, and it's the same thing because when I had my three children, the first two were a breeze. Trust me, if I would have had that last one first, there wouldn't have been three.
No more.
There would not have been three. That pregnancy and that birth was totally different. The other ones was breezing. I thought 8 hours of labor was something serious.
Woo.
And then I hear people talking about 24 and 48 and 36. I was like, oh no, the devil is a liar. No, God knew. He knew we couldn't handle all of that. And so, but it's the same thing because you go through those same pains. You go through that same process of not believing that you can do this. And even the women that I'm working with right now, I had to sit down and I had to change my ideal reader avatar. I had to change her because the season that we go into, we change some aspects of who we are. And we're able to impact a different audience. And it may be an extension of the audience that's already been divinely assigned. You're just now in position to provide them with what it is that they need. And so I think we have to really give people an opportunity to realize that it's already in you. All you got to do is tap into it and pull it out. And then as long as you do what you need to do, then those individuals are going to receive what they need, and then they're going to be able to run with it. Because even the word of God tells us to write the vision and to make it plain. And he didn't say write the vision and make it plain for us to hide it. He says so that others can see it and then run with it.
Yes.
So there's power behind the sharing of testimonies and the sharing of experiences because it offers hope to somebody else. Yeah. And so I think that's just great. So in what it is that, and I'm gonna have to check out that because I like that title. Because I often say that the graveyard is the holder of so much promise and purpose because they never lived to do what they were created to do. And so I don't ever want, and I was just talking to my mom today, and we were talking about interaction with family and things like that, and how once people leave here, there's no I'm sorry's in the grave. There's no forgive me's in the grave. When you go to that graveyard and you see that plot, or you see that urn with those ashes in it, or you see that memorial that you have set up for that individual, they're not talking to you, and you can talk as much as you want, but you're not really going to get an answer back. And so we have to get into a place of urgency to realize that we've got to do this now, because trust me, when that little person is ready to come, it's an urgency. And there is nothing but an act of God that is going to stop them. I don't care how much medication you give them to stop the contractions. I don't care how many procedures you use to close up the womb. I don't care what you do. But when that baby is coming, you can hold off for so long, but it's going to show up one way or another. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, you talking good, Michelle.
Well, I want people to understand that, because it is so, I say this often, and it's no plug against anybody else or to say something negative, but our community
Mm-hmm.
has a real issue with making sure they're living out their purpose and that they're understanding why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as individuals that have discovered our purpose, it is our responsibility to make sure that we are educating them so that
Yeah.
we can encourage and empower them to step into that space.
Yeah. A lot of the work that I do with moms and families, um, a few years ago, my kids and I put out an affirmation series, right? So we did books for children, and we'll be continuing to expand it, for mothers and for fathers, things like that, right? But I say that because I found how important it is that we really focus on our self-talk and what we decide we are going to do and who we are. Like the word talks about the fact that we need to focus on certain things, right? And that's the fruit of the spirit. But oftentimes, like you said, people, they'll see something that they might want to do, but they never venture out to find about it. They'll see someone that is doing something and they go, oh, that would be great. But they never take the steps to learn how to do it or to support themselves in expanding in whatever they are doing, right? And so for me, if I can catch a mom when she has her little one in utero, where she's reading to them this affirmations or telling them how much she loves them and why she loves them and how important they are, and not only doing that for her baby, but doing it for herself as well, you're literally shifting and changing generations and breaking chains because people are no longer thinking under the same concepts that they were before, or maybe the people before them were thinking of. They're beginning to stand up and say, well, wait, I am special. I am smart enough. I am important. This is something I can step out and try. Just because they're taking the time to invest in themselves, to love themselves, to appreciate themselves, and to see themselves the way that God has truly created them to be. And that is to expand and to multiply. He never called us to stay the same. Never called us to just sit in one place and to hide the talents and such that he's given us. He never called us to do that. Never.
Well, and I know I am a church girl, so that it just comes out of me about the scriptures because I learned them growing up. But he even talks about that in the word. He talks about the one that got the one talent, the three talents, and the five talents,
Yeah,
and how the master dealt with them based on what they did with the
with
talents.
their talent.
I don't think that that was a happenstance chapter. I don't think that those verses were just thrown in there just for filler. I believe that as we grow, God begins to knock on the door of our hearts and say, okay, I need you to tap into this purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You have gone through all that you're going through at this season in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Now reach back,
Yeah.
share those experiences, give
Mm-hmm.
people the opportunity to learn from your wisdom. And so I think it's important, and I know some people might be saying, but she's a birthing doula. Why are you guys talking about purpose and all of that? Because all of it plays into the same thing. Because if you look at the 9 months of gestation, and I did this years ago, the 9 months of gestation that a woman goes through before she has this child,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that some are automatically aborted by the body because it cannot sustain that life force for whatever reason, or there's something in the life force that is unable to maintain life, so it will evacuate the womb for whatever the reason. Normally it's called stillbirth, sometimes it's a miscarriage, whatever that is. And then there's other ones that come early. We say they came early, but see, God had already designed their birthday before they ever became a thought. And so if you look at that, they came early because there were some experiences that you needed to draw from, that you were going to use those tools and those skills later in life.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So in that 9 months of gestation that you go through while that baby is being developed in your womb, while in the darkness of your womb, it is being developed. So if we began to move that over into purpose, whether it's a book or a business or whatever it is, you have to realize that there's going to be some dark moments. There's going to be some darknesses, some isolations that you're going to have to go through in order to birth this new thing that God has you birthing. Nothing is different in the concept of it and in the construct of it. We have to begin to start looking at that, because when I tell you, God does all things well. He does all things well. And when he does it in a way that he hides nothing from us. We have to give ourselves permission to see, to witness, and to experience everything that God has for us in that moment, because tomorrow's not promised. So if you don't live for today, your day of death may be tomorrow, and you've wasted a whole day that you could have been out in the marketplace. You could have been giving of yourself. You could have been serving, because that's what we have been called to do, regardless of what your particular calling is. We've all been called to serve.
Yes.
And so I think that that's important, that people begin to see that just because you are a doula, and that's what I'm calling you, a doula, it is in that same realm that it works in birthing a child and going through that whole process and birthing a purpose, whether it's a ministry, a book, a business, whatever it is. You go through those same things. And one of the things that I try to get my clients to understand is, you write in isolation.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
For some of us, that's darkness. For others of us, we rather like the isolation. But it's getting people to understand that you have to give that thing time to develop. Because even Jeremiah 29:11 says that there's an expected end. Everything that you're going through now has an expected end. But I always say I don't want people just to get stuck on 11, because there's a whole bunch of other verses in that chapter that speak to it, because God even talks about who he would come in, and that if you call on him, that he will answer you.
Mm-hmm.
And that even when you're going through your period of captivity, that period of trial, that period of where you have to overcome, that he's right there. There's a season you're going to have to deal with in order to get to this place. So expect it. Don't be shocked when these things happen. And so people have to really step into the realm of knowing that regardless of what it is that you are birthing, whether it's a little person or whether it's a purpose, a business, a ministry, a book, whatever it is, you have to be present in the moment and open to the experience.
Yes. Yes. It makes all of the difference when you're present, right? And so what you were saying earlier just made me think of the reason why I started writing for grants and doing programs in my communities that could support mothers that were even in like shelters and such, where they had no tribe or circle that was coming and helping to undergird them and educate them about those next steps, right? So one of the things, as we look at that full circle you were talking about, is that we talk about the affirmations, we talk about what's happening in your life, how you can be a solution finder, right? And then connect them with individuals to give them the information and feedback that they need, whether it is about medications, right? And talking to their care provider, because all of the things that we see, and right now I'm running on a platform, right, of in decreasing infant mortality and maternal mortality as I run for Mrs. Cleveland on the way to Mrs. Ohio. So the reason that I help them to connect with people to help them share their voice is because I find that so many people aren't able to speak about where they are and what they need so that they can be understood and so that they could understand people that have been put in place to help them. because I find that that's a real issue that mothers deal with when it comes to medical personnel and the view that medical personnel have of us as women of color. So I help the moms to be able to tailor their conversations to speak with pharmacists so they can know what they're taking and what's being prescribed to them. And then also we talk about finances and insurance because it's about leaving a legacy. So all the things that we're doing, right? We are sharing our goals, we are sharing our dreams and our purpose. We're birthing these things. We're expanding and multiplying because we're not keeping it to ourselves. We're sharing it with others, but then we're also making sure that we're leaving a legacy, that we are not leaving this earth without doing exactly what you said, raising up somebody else, sharing with somebody else. It is up to us to not only learn, grow, and expand, but to share it with the next generation. And so that they're prepared to know what's going on with their money, to be prepared. Because I have so many moms that are not ready to go back to work. United States is the only place that doesn't have regular mandated maternity and paternity leave. What is going on? What's going on? So I'm able to help the moms think it through. You know, if it's something else you want to do as far as starting a business, writing about your journey in life, but just understanding how finances work. So you're ready for those diapers. So you're ready for all the things that you need to do with that little person.
Because they're expensive.
Yes. And so having that insurance in place. So if anything does happen to happen, because the numbers are so scary at times of who we're losing and how many we're losing on a regular basis. So if something happens to mom or to baby, where the whole family's not just thrown a ride, not because of the loss, but because now if it's a breadwinner in the family, what are we going to do? So now we're at a loss and we have huge bills. What's the next step? So that they're not facing those types of realities that too many families too often face, right? So that's a lot of what we do with our community work, and as we move into the nonprofit space and creating an actual physical place for moms. So that's a lot of what we're working on right now.
I think that it's important that the work is done because United States is supposed to be the place to
Mm-hmm.
be, the safest place in the world to live, and the superpower, and yada yada yada, all of that. But we have one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world, and it's only because of our inability to reach the unreachable, in our estimation, and educate them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we educate them, then they have what they need to make wise and informed choices and decisions. There is no reason for a mother not to have medical care with all of the things that are available now. There is absolutely no reason for them not to have the proper food to eat when you've got programs like WIC and everything else that's out there. You know, we've got to start being family minded,
Yeah.
and instead of business and dollar minded, because you can have all of the money and you can have all of the businesses, but if you don't have the people to work there, you're not going to be very successful. And so we've got to learn how to invest in our companies and our people, make them, because they are our human capital. And I don't think people see us that way. I don't think that they see us as human capital, because your business can't effectively run if you don't have anybody besides yourself to run it, and you know you need more people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I look at the insurance companies here just in Indiana, and I began to look at the services that we provide. But even in that, we still have a whole community of people that are not being served.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason for that. there
Yeah.
there is enough Medicaid and HIP and everything else, pregnancy insurance and everything else. But the thing goes back to the mom, it goes back to them, and because they can't afford it, they don't seek it.
I think a part of it too, yes, it's education, but even when you're educated about something, if you don't feel that you're being heard, And if you don't feel respected, it's still very difficult to say what you need. So as a doula in the room, we provide like a sense of stability and support, right? You know, someone is there solely for you with no other agenda but you and your baby, and making sure we want to make sure that any question you have is answered, that your wishes are what are being carried out. Like, we are working directly with you to support you and how you feel, and know that we're trained to get you through every layer of that journey, right? And so stats have shown for years that we have been able to help moms to deal with pain, right? We've decreased C-section rates by just being present because we do have that knowledge. And it's a great thing. But when you feel like someone's listening, when you feel like someone cares and that you are special, you are important, we're not floating in between rooms. We're there by your side, holding your hand. If anything, we might leave to get you some water, get you some ice chips, whatever it is they're gonna let you have. But other than that, we're not going anywhere. We're there for you. It might be you want a foot massage. It might need you just need your hand held. It might be we going through your affirmations. Whatever it is to support you. And like I just took a additional training, right, to deal with kangaroo care, so that they know how to hold the baby, when to hold the baby, and that even if it's a high risk baby that's going to the NICU or something, that's okay. They've
Okay,
been
let's
able
go
to
back a
test their
second.
procedures. Sure,
Let's explain what kangaroo care is.
sure. So kangaroo care is skin to skin care that is by any parent, right? So it helps with breastfeeding. It helps with regulating the temperature of the baby. It helps with regulating the heartbeat of the baby. It assists the mom in being able to produce more milk because the baby has quicker access. And the bonding that happens at that time helps them to release more chemicals in their body and hormones so that they can go ahead and do what their breasts were created to do, which was just feed the baby, right? Just to give the baby nourishment. And so it allows for that process of mother, baby, and dad, right? Or care provider to be there and to be nurtured and to be held safe. And that's something that we get the opportunity to do to help keep the lights dim, to keep, you know, remind them that it's better to not yell over top of the newborn. It's better to not have everything blaring and going, as if this isn't a sacred moment in time to have a brand new human being here on this earth. So it's a time where, and it's so funny. I helped a mom birth just the other day, and dad was holding, she had a C-section, and dad was holding the baby, and we hear the baby's lips smacking. And I said, guys, your little one's gonna want to eat here in just a few moments. And they're like, okay, no problem. We're trying to help mom, sit up in the bed and kind of get herself situated. And all of a sudden, I see the baby scooching down on dad because he was up on dad's shoulder. And I see the baby sliding down, and he gets right in this spot over here, and he's smacking. And all of a sudden, it's all wet over here. And I said, oh, okay. I said, you might want to be careful because he's a mover. Now, this brand new baby, I said, he's a mover and he's crawling. So if you keep letting him slide down, because babies are smart, I said, you might get a little surprise. So you might want to make sure you keep him held up over here. And then all of a sudden, dad looks at me and goes, I think I might have a hickey in a minute. I said, you might. You're going to have to keep him moving something. We can shift him over to mom, because babies are very smart and very intuitive, and they will get that milk. They will work towards what they want. But that's what kangaroo care is. It's that skin to skin contact where the baby is able to be as close as possible, right, on mom or on the other care provider. And again, it helps to regulate things for them even better than the incubators do. Even better.
Okay, you brought up a good point that I want to make sure that we step into that arena, because my daughter ended up with the last birth. She had to have an emergency C-section because unknowing the cord had wrapped around the baby's neck. And so every
Mm,
time a contraction would hit,
mm,
his heart rate would go down.
mhm,
And it got to the point where they were really, really concerned that we don't know how long the cord was around the baby's neck or anything. But what we do know is that when they pulled him out, it was securely around the
mm,
baby's neck with
mhm,
just enough room in there for August to be able to still breathe and to
mhm.
do the things he needed to do to develop.
Isn't that
But
amazing
it is, because that could have been a whole nother scenario. That could have
situation?
been really bad. But
Mm,
even when I had my youngest son, the same thing. His was wrapped loosely around his neck a couple of times.
mm,
And so it wasn't anything that we were because let me back up. When I had my youngest son 9 years after I had my oldest son. So when I went through that, I felt that it was important that they also go through the training, because I don't know if they still do it, but they had siblings training back then, to
they do.
where the siblings could be in the hospital room when the baby was being born, only if they went through this series of classes.
Mm,
And so I had my son didn't want to do it. He was like, I ain't doing it. But my daughter was like, yeah, I'm game. But when it came time to have that baby, she wasn't nowhere to be found. But they went through that education, and she had that opportunity had she wanted, to do it. But we have to make sure that we create that environment. And that's one of the things that um, I wish I would have had when I had my youngest son, because at the time I was in an abusive marriage,
mm,
and I did not realize the stress I was feeling,
mhm, mhm.
he was feeling, and that it
Yes,
was impacting his development.
yes.
And had I known then what I know now, man, I could have done things totally different. But that was my season of trial. And that was my season of isolation and my season of overcoming, because I
Mm,
had to learn how to accept my own voice
mm,
and know when it was time for me to walk away,
mhm,
and not feeling a failure because I walked away. So
mhm,
when you're dealing with that mom that is and I had a home nurse that would come out once a month to visit me in the home, and she would come and she would visit me, and we would talk about, and I think it started about 3 months in,
mhm,
and we would talk about the things that were going on with me and how my body was changing, and my interaction with the kids, making sure that I was making the kids a part of the experience as well. So she was very, very helpful in that regard. And then any support that I needed, whether it was making sure we had adequate food in the house, making sure that I had the baby crib for when the baby came, hooking me up with organizations that would make sure I had the milk, and that I had the diapers and clothes, and they had they gave out these baby bucks, to where you could actually go to the baby store and use these bucks as regular cash and buy things for the baby in anticipation of the birth. And so I remember I was 9, I had just become 9 months pregnant, and it was not a good day. It was not a good day at all. Um, and it was her day to show up. And normally my husband would leave because he didn't want to hear the baby talk. He didn't want to hear us laughing or do any of that. But this particular day, he decided to stay. And it wasn't staying in a way of I'm going to participate and I'm going to gain. It was I'm going to oversee, and I'm going to make sure that y'all not saying anything I don't want to say. I don't want said, or you're not doing anything I don't want done, or and so it kind of threw both of us off of a rhythm, because by this time we have created a rhythm that whenever she came, we would do our little small talk, then we would get into the health stuff for the baby, And then we would talk about my plans for the birth and, making sure that I had everything that I needed, but everything was thrown off this day. I mean, we could not get our rhythm back, and she sensed that something wasn't right. And so on the back of her card, because she would always leave a card, on the back of her card, she said, "Here's my number. Call me if something is wrong." Because at that time, I really was not comfortable enough to freely talk. So I'm sharing that to ask the question: how do you deal with those moms, those pregnant moms that their home life is not conducive to the healthy development of that fetus?
So, along with the affirmations that we do in advance, because it's about building them up from the inside, right? Because if they don't believe that they are worth taking the steps to do more, what I can do, it doesn't really compare to what they can do. Like, they have to be the ones that make the decision, right? So we work on it from that end. But then I also have a distinct privilege right now to work with one of our area pregnancy services center. They bring me in as a doula to work with clients for free. So the moms get to work with me for childbirth education, for the actual delivery, for postpartum, and lactation support. And they get classes for all of those things, right? And you made me think about that because you said the baby bugs. And we give them baby bugs, and they come in and shop for brand new things in the stores. And so I try to tell moms, because I think, like, we tell them we have the program, but they don't really fully grasp we have the program. and I was calculating for one of the moms that I just helped deliver, and we were calculating thousands, right, that she saved because she was able to be a part of the doula program and able to receive things for her baby, right, able to receive the information. I say that as well because in our childbirth education classes, we specifically talk about domestic violence and types of abuse. So we literally go through a reel to help draw out and talk through what abuse is and what it looks like in different forms. Because I think most people are looking at things that happen and say, "Oh, our family did that, their family did that. It's just common. It's no big deal." But until you sit down and talk through it and learn about what things really are okay and really are healthy for you and really are helpful for you, when you begin to go through that list of what shouldn't be happening, of what really abuse looks like in all its forms, from financial to emotional to physical, there's so many ways that people, male or female, can take a relationship and attempt to be in charge of certain things or in control of someone else, and that's abusive. And so we talk through that. We watch videos on it, we have discussions on it, and then I send them home with homework, like to review on it. And it can be really touchy, while you're in the moment, but I feel so good when they come back to me and they can talk about what we've been going over, and they realize, like, you see them begin to make little tweaks or to say little things or to no longer let things happen when they realize that it's not acceptable, that it really is a form of abuse, and they realize that they are worth more than that. They are better than that, and they should not accept that. So I try to hit it from multiple angles. And then, of course, I always offer to pray with them, right? So that we can work towards a solution, so that you're hitting it from the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional sides of everything that's going on, so that you can make moves forward and make progress. And then there's also the resource end. I never leave anyone without resources. If they tell me there's something that they need and I can't fulfill it per se, I'm going to find one, two, maybe three or four that can assist them with that may be paid, that may be free. Oftentimes I try to find things that are already covered that they maybe just didn't know was right around the corner from them. So it's a multi-layered thing, but I try to hit it from all angles to make sure that they don't feel alone. They know what steps to take, and they're very clear and aware on what's acceptable and what's not for them and for their babies and their relationships moving forward.
I think that's important of what you just said, the relationships going forward, because when you introduce this new life into an existing family unit, it disrupts the normalcy of that family unit. And it could be a positive thing or a negative thing, just depends on how the family unit is functioning. And so what I see, even with my daughter and my 6 month old grandson, her and her husband has gone through some changes, trying to make that switch and to
Mm-hmm.
have that inclusion. Because right now he's the cutest little thing, and everybody loves on him, and he gets all kinds of attention until they tired.
Right.
Because my oldest grandson is 16, his
Mm-hmm.
sister is 15, his brother is 9 years old, and then there's a 6 month old. So when I tell you the family unit, and then there's mom and dad. So the family unit had already been established. So now you've got this new one in there, and it's only my daughter and my granddaughter, only two females in the house. So as per usual, the
Mm-hmm.
males defer to the females, because you're supposed to have some innate sense that you're supposed to
Right.
be able to take care of this baby. And so it created a situation, just what you were saying. I believe that she is still dealing with some postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because when you get up in them 30s, your body doesn't snatch back into the shape that it was before that little bundle of joy took over your body.
Mm-hmm.
When it invaded, and you found yourself eating in the middle of the night and all of that other stuff. And so even in dealing with that, and you said that you work with them about the postpartum, how do you, or what are some ways that families can support and be a part of that supportive community for a new mom that doesn't even realize that she's dealing with postpartum?
Yeah. So, to be very clear for those that are listening and watching, postpartum that you're referring to is postpartum depression. And so, it normally is when you are speaking in respect to someone having um, usually negative emotions, whether it's crying, fatigue, just difficulty with the functions of every day. And you'll see it in small degrees, you'll see it in large degrees, but it's normally seen when you maybe have a situation and you, as a mom, are crying uncontrollably. You don't know why. It's constant. And this can happen, every so often for women. Doesn't mean it's postpartum depression. But when you have it happening on a consistent basis, more than just, a couple times, or because maybe you had someone you lost, or, different things that we would all cry about. But it seems like it continues for a little bit longer than you might normally do. I'll give you an example. I went into an office to pick up a breast pump. It was my husband, myself, and my baby. And the woman said, "We don't have any more of that style in right now." And I said, "Are you sure? You can't check? There's not something else you could." She said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. We'll order a minute. I will ship it to your house, so you don't even have to come back." By this point, now mind you, this has been only what, 30 seconds that I just said that? I've gone from talking to you very clearly like this to bawling. And I mean, I'm full on snot running, bawling because she didn't have the pump in that I needed. But really, it wasn't about the pump. It was just a flood of emotions. I couldn't really control it. And she's looking at me and she's so apologetic. She's constantly apologizing. And I'm saying, she says to me, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "There's nothing you can do. I can't, I'm crying and I can't control it." And my husband says to me, "How can I help? How can I help? What can I do? What is wrong? We could go somewhere else and find the pump." And I'm like, "It's not the pump. She doesn't have it." And the baby, and they're just looking at me like, "Let me get her some tissue. Can I hold a hand or something?" But that's what postpartum depression, it can show up like that. It can sneak up on you, right? It's when you often too might have a difficult time connecting with your little one. Maybe you had a traumatic birth experience. Something in that for you was really upsetting, and you haven't had the opportunity to think through it, to talk through it, to filter through how you feel. It makes a difference. And we all need one another. And so I find that oftentimes moms deal with postpartum depression when they're isolated, when they feel like they don't have the support and the help that they need, when they're extremely tired, coupled with, as you said, your emotions and all of the chemicals and the things that are happening within your body. You're having floods of feelings and emotions. And it is important to have people to help you deal with that. So whether it's a counselor, whether it's a clergy member, whether it is you calling your physician or your care provider and saying, I don't know what's going on, but something's not right. It's just, I don't know. There's a shift, but can you help me? So I always encourage moms to reach out. I encourage dads and partners to reach out. If you see something is off, it just doesn't seem quite right, it doesn't seem like they're coming back emotionally, reach out to get help. So I always, like I said, I give referrals, right? We talk it through. We filter through that birth. How did you feel about it? What happened? What did you see? Because remember, the birthing person's perspective is different from everybody else in the room. And if they don't get a chance to go through those feelings, oftentimes it does cause a season of lamenting or just anger, or where they're having disgruntled emotions and they might not have even realized it, but it's coming out in different relationships and conversations and in interactions with the baby. We do testing. So most places there's a universal test that is used for postpartum depression. We go ahead and we look at that. It's called the Edinburgh scale. We look at that scale for most moms and we'll calculate it out. And then if we find that that score meets something that says we need to reach out to somebody pretty quickly, that's what we do. We take the time and we get you connected with someone. And so the exciting thing is with the Edinburgh scale, most organizations will already have places that have agreed to welcome that mom in within the next few days, to get them scheduled and get somebody talking to them, to deal with whatever it is that they have going on. So I encourage moms to write out how they feel or record out how they feel to get that stuff out. I encourage them to talk to people. If they have somebody around them that they can talk to that is level-headed and going to allow them to just speak, because they don't need people to judge. They don't need people to give solutions. They really need people to listen because it's just how they feel, right? And then I also encourage having a postpartum plan so that that level of overwhelm is decreased. So that is family that can come sit with you and support, family that can help rock the baby. Even if there's someone that you know, like a mom or aunt that can stay overnight so that you can get some solid sleep and they can just wake you up to nurse that baby. When I come in to do postpartum care, sometimes that's what I do for those moms that have just been going and going and going and going and going for hours, but they just need a little rest to get it back going together. I'll come in and do that. And then one of the other things where you mentioned the body snapping back, there's a certain thing called belly binding that is really helpful. And so I suggest for moms to use people in their community for belly binding, for chiropractic, for massage therapy, and then also to do like I do with placenta encapsulation. It's been found to be really helpful for moms to receive the nutrients that they've just given all out in that placenta. And you can have those as pills. You can have them as chocolates. Some mom like to have them like that. You can do so many different things with them to help you to regain the vitamins and the nutrients that you've just put out, right? The placenta is so nutrient dense as it just helped to form a whole person, right? And so to help put those things back in. So I really say, don't be isolated. Talk about how you feel. use the resources that are around you in your community and create a tribe if you don't have one. Use the tribe you have, but if you don't have one, make one and put the people together to help you have the food to eat and to support you in taking care of yourself and your little one. And I say yourself because those showers and those naps will help you make it through to the next day.
Now that is so important because I did do that with my daughter. We don't live that far from each other. But I tell you, after I got through being there with her, I had to go and rest and get my whole life together because it's very upsetting to the
Mm-hmm.
routine that you have developed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we were talking about before. And so before we end the show here, because can you believe it's been an hour?
Mm-mm.
So I want to make sure for those individuals like myself that are grandmothers and for grandparents, how can we, besides doing what you said, go and maybe stay with them for through the nighttime to
Mm-hmm.
care for the baby so that they can get rest and that type of thing, but how can we be more supportive to the new mom, even
Yeah.
though we know that she has an established family unit? We don't want to go in and take over. We want to go in and support. We want to go in and be a blessing and not a hindrance. How can grandparents step into that role and be supportive, not
Mm-hmm.
only to the other children that may already be in the home, but also to the husband and to the mom and the new baby?
So that is a great question, Michelle. That is a really good question. And I'm excited because I don't get that question a lot. Like, I don't get a lot of people that want to support in that way. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So when I sit down with moms, I think it's imperative that you do a plan for the birth and you do a postpartum plan. And so if your family member has done that, listening to them, taking the time to just let them share what they want, why they want it, and how they would like for you to support them in that, right? Because every single plan is going to be different. But if you let them just talk and share their heart, it creates a safe space that doesn't encroach on that family unit, right? Because they're telling you, even if it's just a little, that's the thing that they need for you to do. And that means so much to them, right? And then if you are very clear with them, right? So either you sit there and you listen to them as they make it, like maybe they invite you to come to the session with us, right? So that you can kind of be a fly on the wall and hear what their thought process is and what it is that's happening. Because it might trigger things for you too that you remember. Oh, this happened with my friend, or oh, this happened with me, and oh, this might be a little helpful, or oh, I still have this in my closet. Oh, I can give that. Things like that. Because when you begin to listen and open your heart to just serve versus saying, well, for me, it was like this. So I'm going to do it like this for you because I don't want you to go through what I went through, because that's not always helpful. And it puts them in a more defensive place than in a place of listening and wanting you there and hearing what you have to say, right? So when you create that safe space, it allows them to talk, and then it opens up the door so that you can serve them however they need with that baby. And oftentimes it parlays into other things. I find a lot of times with family members, they have to be really careful because they're walking the tightrope between stepping on toes, right? Being relevant, and even knowing relevant as in knowing what's happening, and then also not wanting to be so aloof to make them feel like they're just alone and have to figure it out and you don't want to be bothered. Like you have to be really careful with that, and to not push your own agenda, right? So we've had moms that wanted to breastfeed, and the generation before them and the generation before that only bottle fed. We've had a lot of that. And so they're trying to be helpful, right? And they're like, I'll get the bottles ready for you. It's some formula over here, right? I can. And the mom's like, you're not listening. I said I wanted to try to breastfeed. Why are you giving me something that I did not want? Right? Or why are you gifting me something that I did not need or don't desire? So I really think it's about being open, listening, encouraging them to make a plan. And it goes right along with what you said earlier, the education, right? When they're educated, they know the things they want to pick. They know what they want to do. They might not know exactly how it's going to play out, but innately, they know what they want. They know what they want to happen. So when you get a chance to look at that, I just encourage grandmas and other family members to read over it and listen and let it be. Don't make judgments. Don't try to shift and change it, but just see how you can support the idea of what they want to do. If you know they want to breastfeed, maybe it's getting them a breastfeeding tank, or maybe it's getting them a cute coverall or onesie dress that they know they would like, or maybe it's purchasing them a bra fitting, so they can go and get their nursing bras and not have to worry about it, or a bra that holds a pump so that they can breastfeed on one side and pump on the other, right? So getting those little simple things that for them make them feel more comfortable and make them feel like they're heard. That's going to be, to me, one of the best things that happen, because that kind of fits blanket cases, because there's so many different things that can happen. But really, when we step back, walk in that area of servantship, and then it also opens the door so that those tidbits of wisdom that y'all have, because y'all have been here, y'all have done this, y'all have seen more than we have. It allows for those tidbits to slide in and to be listened to, because they're given in a safe, loving environment, not a structured, I'm going to tell you what to do environment, because now they're the mom. And oftentimes when they become the mom, they don't want to be made to feel as if they're the child. So if they can feel supported.
I
Mm-hmm.
can relate to that, because sometimes not sometimes, whenever I go see my mom in Illinois, it's like I'm that youngest little girl running around the house again. Because, yeah, I don't care how old you get.
Mm-hmm.
If my mom's generation, they have set rules. There are set rules that you abide by.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about other races, but I know in the Black community, our seniors, our elderly were raised by rules. There are set rules that you live by. And I don't care how old you get, you're going to still observe these same rules because these were the rules you were raised up under. And so I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'll let you get back to your evening. Knowing that we're in the midst of the pandemic, even though they say we're on the tail end of it, I'm gonna leave that. Only God knows the truth. But I noticed that even in the midst of this, that there are more cases of mothers that are really struggling to try to figure this out and determine what this has to look like for them as a mother. So understanding that we have to maintain this social distance, and we can't be as touchy feely as we are used to being, and we can't be there to support as we have been known to do in the past. So what are some ways that we can support even if we can't physically be there?
Oh,
What are
yes.
some ways that we can still help that new mom navigate these first 3 to 6 months to
Mm-hmm.
where their whole world has changed, because now they've got a little person that they are now caring for, and so it has interrupted their normalcy, and now they've got to come up with a new normal in the midst of a pandemic, to where you've got to come up with a new normal because life will never be the same again. So how do we still honor the fact that they're bringing in a new life, but maintain the health wellness that they want us to ensure that we're not continuously passing this virus from family member to family member?
Mm-hmm. So before doing anything, I encourage families really to pray about it and ask God for wisdom, right, on what is best for their family. Logistically, I've moved a lot of things in coordination with what I do in person to virtual, right? So it's opened me up to help more people. Now, for families, something that you can do, It doesn't mean that you have to go to their home, right? You could do love notes. You could send things like Uber Eats or gift cards to their favorite food delivery restaurant so that they don't have to cook and you don't have to go deliver things. You could even just make sure that you send them regular texts to say, I'm thinking about you. I am supportive of you. I'm praying for you. I know that you're an amazing mom, right? So little things that help to encourage their psyche as they are matriculating through this. You can also ask them, um, is there a possibility, like with your schedule? Like for me, I know I needed to think through kind of how the day was going to go. And even though it shifts and changes all the time with newborns, just the thought of it being planted in here that, oh, I should wash my face today. Or maybe I should slide into a new pair of clothes, right? Or maybe you could go over, and if they have a laundry room on a different floor, or if they usually go to the laundromat, if you could just get the clothes at the door and take them to the laundromat, wash them, fold them, and bring them back, that would be really helpful a lot of times. So it's not that you have to be in immediate contact with them, but there's a lot of little things that need to be done that can be an overwhelming stress to a family that's just trying to cope with a little one who's eating every hour and a half to 2 hours, and they're the center and focus of attention, and nothing else can much get done, you know? Even if you find that reading them a book or doing some type of a funny video for them, like if you and your family members got together to do something to make them laugh, all of those types of things are super helpful for them.
I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom and different things that we can do to support our mothers and also support each other as we step into the realm of birthing purposes and birthing children. I think it's important that we all step into that space authentically and do it in a way that we are able to give back to others. So again, I want to thank you so very much for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. So please let the listening audience know if they want to get in touch with you, the best ways to get in touch with you. You're still on mute.
Thank you. They can go to TomeshaWalker.com, or they can call me on my office line at 216 345 9756. Again, that's 216-345-9756. Or they can head to TomeshaWalker.com. That's TOM as in Mary, ES as in Sam, HA Walker, WALKER.com. And they can always Google me and find me on all social media at Tomesha Walker as well.
So, any last words that you want to share with our listening audience?
I really just want to encourage you all. I'm so excited that you're here because that means that you want to take steps forward. You wanted to hear real talk and you wanted to receive information to help you to excel and succeed in your life. So I'm excited that you're here. And I just want to continue to encourage you to keep moving forward, to know that you were created for a purpose and you have purpose in your life. So continue to move forward, continue to birth it, and continue to leave a legacy that not only helps someone else, but expands to make a difference in this world, this entire world. Because each and every one of us make a difference with each thing that we do. Thank you for having me here, Michelle.
You are more than welcome. So, this is your girl, Michelle, with Tomesha on Girls Talk Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. So, remember, tune in again next week because we'll have another outstanding guest that will share their wisdom, their knowledge, and their lives with us. You all be blessed. Bye bye.